I think for most, if not all of us, it seems so often in our lives that we just can't get everything done that we think we have to do. We're overwhelmed with the tasks that we are trying to accomplish, and certainly this time of the year can be one of those times. And so we all, I think, yearn for a kind of balance and harmony in our life. Able to do what we're able to do, but also to have time to relax and experience that great gift of God's peace. Today, on this fourth Sunday of Advent, the church calls us to look to Mary, this magnificent young woman who is given the greatest task imaginable, as she is the one who is to bear the Savior. But to see how Mary was always had a kind of balance and harmony in her life. Of course, she was sinless, so she was constantly filled with the peace of Christ. She was a woman of contemplation and of prayer. We hear in that Christmas scene those words that Mary pondered all these things, treasuring them in her heart. But Mary is also a woman of strength and of action. The first words of our gospel today, that we are told that she set out, she traveled in haste to visit Elizabeth. And so we see this fruit of Mary's contemplation in her selfless love. How is she able to do this? How is she able to have both this contemplation and this great action? And I think it's because of her perfect faith. We hear in the gospel at that visitation, Elizabeth proclaims that she is blessed, a word that means she's filled with God's peace and she's filled with his love, and she has a sense of well-being and fulfillment, all because she believed that what was spoken by the Lord would be fulfilled. And I think here is the lesson for us, that in this time of gift giving and gift receiving, we have to constantly remember that the greatest gift that any of us can have is the gift of faith. And it is our openness to that gift, to grow in that gift of faith, to accept all that God has revealed to us in and through the life of the church, that you and I can become blessed, happy, fulfilled with that power of Christ's love and peace. And yet we struggle with our faith. Sometimes we so easily doubt, or we can get angry or somehow worried about things. And then we get into that kind of anxiety and frustration. And again, we fail to most fundamentally trust in God. We fail to believe that everything is somehow part of his plan, and that God always knows what is best for us and has promised to always be with us. In our first reading, the prophet Micah, he expresses this fundamental promise that God will send the Messiah, this ruler in Israel who will shepherd his flock, that his greatness shall reach the ends of the earth. But his actions are never harsh. The prophet proclaims, he shall be peace. Our second reading from the letter to the Hebrews shows how I think we can experience that peace. Under the old covenant, the priests had to make sacrifices to God over and over, and it was hoped that these sacrifices would somehow atone for sin and the restoration of that peace that will always be lost by sin. But now Christ's one perfect sacrifice achieves this total and complete restoration. And then you and I here are brought into communion with that reality. You and I are consecrated in and through this offering, at this Mass, and at every Mass. Again, connected in the most powerful way to Christ, blessed by him, and offered the fullness of his peace. Then it is in maintaining that communion with him that you and I can then grow in that balance, that harmony of our prayer and our work, striving striving to do that as Mary did, obedient to God's will as she was. And then in all the tasks that are ours, we might know and share in that peace that comes not from trusting our plans or the effectiveness of our work, but simply trusting in God and in his promise to be with us always. Again, Mary knew this balance perfectly. May all of us know it in that share of God's grace that he desires for us, that we too will be blessed, confident, filled with God's grace and his life, secure and at peace because of our faith and because of our trust in God, so that, like Mary, we can always know and proclaim and experience that blessing for what has been spoken to us by the Lord will be fulfilled.